What's up, y'all? And welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today I am talking about a new favorite of mine called Space Brothers. Now, Space Brothers is a series where the manga started in 2007 and is still ongoing right now they're currently up to 42 volumes. But the anime aired back around 2012 with 99 episodes. Now, let me get some more information for y'all. And of course, just to make sure I give credit where credit is due, the story and art is done by Chuya Koyama, and genre-wise, it's like a sci-fi slice of life series. So, want to make sure I get those things out the way before I continue forward. But yeah, so the anime, 99 episodes long, on Crunchyroll, only in sub. There's no English dub of this series, just sub only. And it was animated by A1 Pictures. Now, got all the basic stuff out the way. So, this show is something that has been on my radar for a while. Because I don't know how much I've ever talked about it on any of my shows, podcasts, or anything, whatever. But especially growing up, I was a very big fan of space and sci-fi stuff. It's still there in my heart. It's still there in my heart. But I just hadn't really read, watched, or nothing too much lately. And so this was a few weeks ago now. But I was scrolling through, just trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to watch today? And it was on my front page as far as recommendations, and I was like, you know what? What if today is the day? And I kid you not, within a day and a half, 2 days tops, I had already watched about 30 episodes in the first couple days. Now, to kind of explain the theme of this story, so like I said, it's called Space Brothers, and it follows these two brothers, Muta and Hibito Nanba. Muta being the older brother, if you're watching the video version of this, that's in the suit, and then Hibito, the younger brother with the pointy blonde hair. Now, these two, since they were kids, they always had fascinations with all things related to outer space and dreaming of becoming astronauts. And this dream really accelerated when they were kids and they were doing their usual thing where they go in the woods, they're recording kind of like audio logs of nature and stuff. And Hibito happens to come across some weird aberration in the sky that basically they both believe was a UFO of some sorts. And so that was the thing that like really sparked their interest of wanting to be astronauts, because okay, I want to go to space, I want to go to the moon and see what the heck that was. And so fast forward almost 20 years later, and Hibito has achieved his dream. And I'll say this is the spoiler-free part right now. Like, I'm just kind of just giving a little bit of context of what the show is. But Hibito kept on following his dreams, and he became an astronaut. But Muta didn't. He basically went another route. He went to college, and he is now basically kind of like a engineer of sorts that designs cars and stuff. Well, first episode, he's getting fired from his job because he headbutted his boss, which we found out later on was because of his boss insulted his brother, but he headbutted his boss, and of course he got fired, and of course the car that they give him a ride to the bus station in was a car that he designed. The irony. But that is the crux of the show, is the story of these two brothers and their goals and aspirations to want to get to outer space. And like I said, with one of the brothers already being an astronaut, and then with Muta losing his job, and then once the mom was on the phone talking to Hibito, and basically they end up working together to submit Muta's application to basically start his journey to become an astronaut. And so seeing that in episode 1 is what really grabbed my attention, really grabbed my heart, because y'all know me, I love a series that has strong themes surrounding family and just close bonds in general. And that is something that is a reoccurring theme all throughout this series that I've seen so far, or that I've experienced so far. And one thing I love about these two brothers' connection is that while even though Muta is the older brother, Hibito is always the one marching forward because he has unwavering faith that his brother will catch up with him eventually. And so he continues to march forward because he knows that his brother will get there. Because Muta, he does have, he doubts himself a lot, but he is extremely, extremely smart. And we see that all throughout the show with how either he comes up with unorthodox ideas or solutions of how to solve various problems, or just how he views and approaches different tasks, and things like that. So it's like at first it's like, okay, who is this clumsy goof? But it's like, no, Muta is one of the smartest people in the room, but he just sometimes lacks that confidence until he's put in certain situations. But I just love that, and like I said, that is what hooked me in that first episode where Hibito found out, okay, my brother lost his job. Mom helped me submit his application because I know that if he can get on the path, then he will get here eventually. And I love how throughout the series, it's kind of like a constantly moving goalpost to where Hibito accomplishes another thing and another thing. And then it's like, along the way, he is always thinking about his older brother, and he's like, Muta, come on, or I'll be waiting for you, or just whatever verbiage you want to use for that. And so I feel like this show, like I said, if you're a fan of sci-fi and slice of life series, and you enjoy those very strong bonds of characters, and not just family members, like I said, this is just different characters that they meet along the way all throughout, then this is a series that I highly, highly, highly recommend. And I blazed through the 99 episodes within a week and some change, but that's because there was like a couple of days due to life and family stuff, sports stuff with the kids, that I wasn't able to watch much, if any, episodes. But pretty much within 7 to 10 days, I knocked out 99 episodes. And it has been a very long time since something like that of that scope has grabbed my attention. Because, of course, we've all done plenty of, Netflix 10 episode binge watch sessions over the weekend. But this is not that. This is knocking on 100 episodes. And so, but that's how much I fell in love with it, to where pretty much I abandoned everything else along the way to solely focus on watching this show. I pretty much dropped all other anime and TV shows I was watching for that time, except for a few, and I pretty much didn't read anything else. I didn't play any games, really. It was all Space Brothers. And that is the biggest recommendation or point of recommendation I can give for this series, like I said, for myself, just because it just really spoke to me that deeply on that level. Now, all that being said, I kind of want to start diving into some more specific story beat moments that happen along the way. And I'm very happy I did this because I did something that I rarely ever do on my Twitter account for Dad Needs to Talk. I did a thread for my watch through of the show. I rarely do that for anything. If I'm a documented or whatever, it's usually just me talking about the show in some capacity on my podcast or doing a little review or whatever. It is rare that I actually will type out, episode by episode almost, or arc by arc, things with the show or whatever, but I did that for Space Brothers. And so I kind of want to go through some of those moments and stuff. And so I kind of regret that I waited so long to do this or whatever, because it's been a couple of weeks since I already watched it. So my mind is a little bit fuzzy on that, but that's okay, because y'all don't necessarily need to hear me recap every single piece of 99 episodes, but I just want to kind of give some high level thoughts on certain moments, certain characters, certain story arcs and stuff. And so one of the first ones I want to touch on is the situation that happened with Azuma. Now, Azuma was a character, or is a character in the series, that originally he was presented as this grumpy astronaut that's been there for a long time. One of the first astronauts from Japan that was supposed to be the first one from Japan to go to the moon, but he's not doing it. Instead, Hibito becomes the first astronaut to go to Japan. And so he's kind of presented as just like this grumpy character that nobody wants to talk to, that seemingly has a chip on his shoulder. But we find out throughout this show that Azuma, hold on, guess I'm creeping in the background. So we find out that Azuma actually relinquished his opportunity to be the first one to go to the moon because he doesn't want everything that he knows that comes with that, which is the publicity and the fame and all of these things, basically just stardom, that would come with the pressure of being put in that position. So he willingly gave up his spot to Hibito because it's like, okay, he pretty much knew, and he does eventually end up going to the moon a little bit later in the show, but it's like we see some flashbacks to, when in the build up to this stuff kind of early on or whatever, he would just be out somewhere with his family, and while one group of reporters is over here hounding him for information or whatever, they're also over here hounding his wife and kids, and hey, how does it feel if your husband being the first person from Japan to go to space and yada yada yada? And he was like, yo, back up, you do not talk to my family. Leave them out of it. And so that was very awesome to kind of get that backstory and insight into this character. And that was something that continued to be a reoccurring thing throughout the show that I loved, is that you would get introduced to a new character or a set of characters, and they will sometimes be presented some way, whether it be just your own interpretation of them as a viewer, or how other characters in the series frame them or talk about them behind their back. But then once we actually get to know the characters and their situations a little bit more, you learn oh, there is so much more to you than I initially thought. And it just kind of made so many characters where I was not sure about or didn't like or indifferent to becoming some of my favorite characters in the series. And so kind of going along from there, I just love following Muta on his journey throughout all these milestones and stuff, and all of the goofiness that happened along the way, from you know, that first kind of interview where he was kind of like messing with the screw in his chair, and how that was actually a test, and him and a couple other people were the only people who actually noticed it and tried to fix it. Um, but then that kind of came back again during another big interview. But what's his name? The astronaut Murasaki loosened the screw too much, and Namba, when he was in the chair, fell and almost busted his butt, and or he did fall and bust his butt, I should say. But just again and again, my heart was just so filled just watching these characters succeed and go to the next step. And I even love when he met the older guy that that saw him and Hibito a lot, because growing up as kids, Muta and Hibito would always go to these kind of like museums or showcases or whatever, so much about space and astronauts to where they had a lot of these scripts memorized. And there was a guy there that worked at JAXA, which is the Japanese space company. He was the one that got to tell Muta, congratulations, basically you're coming on board to start your training and stuff. And so, yeah. So, next point, or next story I kind of want to touch on is the moon incident with Hibito. Now, before we get to the bad stuff, the happy stuff that happened, the moment of Hibito first stepping onto the moon and just doing this insane jump, and he just continues to jump and just saying, yay! I just freaking loved it, and I love how the media took it. They freaking made a whole freaking anime based off of him with this little rabbit character and all this stuff, whatever. Though, hey, little sus that the black dude was the gorilla. Oh no. But that aside, I just love seeing the joy on Hibito's face and stuff like that. But then a little bit later on, when Hibito and I believe Daniel was his name, I think. No, forgive me, I can't remember what the other astronaut's name was. Hibito and Damien, that's what it was. They're out basically kind of like going to survey the area or whatever, but because of how vision and stuff works on the moon, it is hard to tell if something in the distance, if that's a mountain or just a hill. And it's also hard to see craters and stuff in the ground because of, like I said, you're kind of coming over the way the surface of the moon works, whatever. It really messed with their perception of things, and they ended up falling into a freaking crater, and Damien gets badly injured, and they talk about how in their training is like, hey, if it comes down to it, all of us know going into these missions to worry about yourself first and your survival. If you can't save somebody, then they know that is the reality of this line of work, and that, hey, leave them behind, you come back, basically, because, and I guess like the thinking of that is like, hey, this is all uncharted territory. If we lose all the astronauts or everybody on the team or whatever, then we haven't made any progress, versus like, okay, we might have lost somebody, but at least one person was able to make it back and inform us, like, hey, there's a crater here, or hey, this is what happened, so they can kind of like help them learn and build off of for the next time. Well, Hibito was like, nah, I'm gonna save my homie. He came up with the plan, and he ends up getting Damien up and stuff, and he's getting ready to try to like pull him out the crater. Well, as he's scaling the wall, he falls off, hits the surface of the moon relatively hard, even though there's low gravity, and gets injured. His oxygen tank gets destroyed, and so now he's on his backup tank is destroyed, and like his suit is like leaking, whatever. And so it was bad. Now I'm stressing out because I am like, oh no, is Hibito about to die? Because just because they're both on the cover does not mean that they both are still alive currently in the manga and stuff. Even though I had some faith that it was the case, but at the same time, I'm like, don't know, that could just be him. Imagine the spirit of his brother there with him. But that whole arc and stuff was very, very stressful to watch because I was like, are they really going to make it out of here? But I loved how the spirit of this astronaut named Brian. So 3 years prior to this situation, we learned that basically there was a accident during re-entry from space from a crew with Brian, which is basically kind of like this like legendary, almost a Gold Roger from One Piece type of figure. But their parachutes didn't eject properly or whatever, and so they crashed. Everybody, all 3 astronauts on board or however many, all died. But Brian also had a brother, an older brother, the same way how Hibito has an older brother. But I just really loved how that whole story arc ended up going and shaping and stuff, because Hibito ended up finding out this kind of like glimmering shine he saw in the distance was a space figure that Brian had left on the moon when he was there all them years back, and that helped guide Hibito to safety. Between that and then this kind of like this moon rover thing that they named Brian as well. And so so all that stuff was just super dope to see. The kind of like big story beat after that was all of the big like the core crew kind of getting their astronaut suits and stuff, or their blue jumpsuits, I should say. That was a very dope moment. And I'm trying to see oh yeah. One of the next people that I want to kind of highlight is this dude. What's his name? Vincent Bold. Him, and then there's this other drunken dude. Pico. Yes, Pico. So let me talk about Vincent first. So Vincent, who was voiced by the same voice actor who does Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen. I love that, but Vincent, he is a character that is very punctual. He does not like his time to be wasted, and he is very strict. And then on the flip side, you have this character named Pico, who, let me see, not him. Oh, come on. Oh, why is it not loading? Okay. Well, it didn't load properly for me. But anywho, Pico, this other character that we see here, yeah, him, in the bottom right for those of y'all watching the video, he was the total opposite, to where he was like a drunk, who had little to no cares in the world. And it was a shock to me when it was revealed that these two characters were essentially best friends that grew up together. It was those two, and then they had a third friend who, once again, they all dreamed of becoming astronauts, and that Pico was going to be the one who designed the ship, and Vincent was going to be the astronaut, and the other friend, I can't remember his name, was going to be the one in kind of like the mission control room, directing things or whatever. Well, unfortunately, when they were kids, their friend died in a accident on the same way where they all kind of had like, on the same day, I should say, where they all kind of had like this like big argument and stuff. And that's what kind of led them on their different paths, kind of like attitude wise, to where Vincent took it as like, man, tomorrow is not promised. You have to cherish every second of the day, every day, period. And then Pico was just like, there is no point in doing any of this stuff, whatever. It was that accident plus the situation with the parachute, because we found out that he was supposed to be the original person that designed the parachutes and stuff for the shuttle that had the accident, but the head guy, the director, whatever, of that team chose to go with a cheaper company because they're like, no, I don't trust what you're saying or whatever. We're going to go with this other company, even though they haven't done any testing, whatever. We're going to go with them because they're cheaper. And then that led to the accident, and he felt horrible because he was like, they didn't. If I would have been the one who worked on this project, this would not have happened. But Muta was the one that kind of like brought together, kind of like reawakened both Vincent and Pico throughout the show. Just because it was just so awesome. Just seeing those characters just kind of come together and things like that. I'm trying to think. Another kind of like thing with this show too, and apologies that I'm kind of like all over the place, but I'm just kind of like trying to remember stuff that's kind of coming to me, whatever. But it's just that, like, of course, I knew that obviously becoming an astronaut is not some super easy task, but and even if this isn't like a 100% accurate representation, I feel like this is at least like a good idea of some of the potential hurdles that are involved on the journey to becoming an astronaut, because some of these tests and trainings and different things that happen along the way was insane that they had to go through to on their road to becoming an astronaut. And then the fact that, like, hey, just because you become an astronaut does not automatically mean you get to go up to space or whatever, because it's like Vincent, he's been a freaking astronaut for like 12 years at this point, never been up to space or whatever until like the very end of the season. He got a chance to go on a mission to the moon. But it was just wild, just seeing that realization. There was a short guy earlier in the series called Furyu. Hold on, Furyu, yeah. That he was definitely a character that I was kind of like annoyed with at first, because I'm like, man, this guy is annoying, but I loved how we got a little bit more backstory with him, and one of his idols was somebody who had, I think it was somebody that was like an alma mater of his school or something like back in the day, that went to try to be an astronaut or whatever, but back in the day, they had height requirements. So even though he passed all the tests or whatever, he was just a little bit too short to meet their height requirements. But one thing that I love about this series is that a lot of these characters, just because they get told no in one situation, or they don't get the opportunity to do something, then these characters will do their best to open up the door for the next generation to come behind them. Because even though this guy got denied because of his height, he ended up going into designing spacesuits that could kind of like fluctuate in height, and that kind of forced NASA and the body that makes those rules to now people like him, Furyu, can have an equal opportunity to also become an astronaut as well. And so stuff like that, it was just so dope to see. I'm trying to think, who is another character? Daniel Young, this old dude. So Muta them, we're at the location for the shuttle launch. And so chaos, of course, ensues, because nothing can ever be simple when it comes to Muta. So Muta is there with his brother's dog, which, forgive me, I'm forgetting the adorable dog's name. Uh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the dog's name. Appo. Appo. So they're there, and so Muta had to run into the store real quick. And while he's in the store, he tied Appo up outside or whatever. Well, this snotty nosed brat comes up out of nowhere, unties the dog. Is like, "Be free, dog!" And now we have a dog on the loose during a shuttle launch. So Muta and Kenji, another character I'm gonna talk about in a second because he's a dad. So I definitely gotta talk about Kenji in a second. But yeah. So they're running around trying to find the dog. Meanwhile, this old man finds the dog, and Muta finds out. Muta goes to get the dog to get Appo back, but the old man basically, in a sense, kind of like almost kidnaps Muta, and is like, "Hey, okay, I'm gonna take you." He just starts driving. He doesn't even explain it. He just starts driving, and he's driving hog wild across this base or whatever. And they go to this like abandoned building out way away from everybody or whatever. And he ends up saying like, "We're gonna watch the launch or whatever. Like, this is my favorite spot to watch it." And the reveal later on that this seemingly crazy old guy is actually a pilot trainer. He trains astronauts how to fly jets because that's another crazy requirement. In order to be an astronaut, you have to freaking learn how to fly a jet. And so, not only the fact that this dude, this wild old man, is an instructor, but that he was Hibito's instructor was super dope. And I loved how that connection came together. And I loved how later in the series, like towards like the end of the anime, he came back around, or he came back when Muta got to the point where he was getting ready to do his training to learn how to fly a jet. Old man Daniel Young became Muta's teacher, and he has some wild and unorthodox teaching ways that a lot of people don't cut, but it explains why Hibito was so chill during his shuttle launch or whatever. Is that like, hey, Mr. Young ramps things up to such a degree. He's like, hey, if you can survive my training, then anything else is easy street. And so I love how Muta ends up being his final student that he teaches. And just that when that reveal happened, I think it kind of like woke Muta up to take things a little bit more seriously. Not that he wasn't, but to kind of like really understand this man and to like, okay, if I'm gonna be the last student, then I'm gonna make sure I learn everything that I can, from this legend. Um, and so yeah, so this was just like a very awesome character. Now, I'm gonna see if I can find. Do I have a picture? I know I gotta have a picture of Kenji somewhere, surely. Do. Maybe. Okay. So, Kenji here. Kenji, of course, is the character that, of course, is near and dear to my heart because he is a dad. So, and that is something, once again, that I just love. We love about these characters. We met so many characters from so many walks of life. Some of them are just single. Some of them are older brothers. Some of them, like Kenji, is a dad. We meet somebody later on that is a mom, older people, all different types of people in the mix, whatever. But one thing with Kenji that just like really hit hard for me was like as the trainings and stuff kind of like really ramped up, he was gone away from home for so freaking long to where he'd be gone for a few days at a time to sometimes a few weeks at a time, traveling across the country, traveling across the world, doing all this training and stuff. Meanwhile, his first daughter, she's growing up, and then throughout the show, his wife gets pregnant. So it's like, not only are you missing your one daughter growing up, you're also missing being there for all the appointments and different things to help your wife with the pregnancy and stuff, whatever. And yeah, it was just kind of just insane to think about, because and this is something that kind of gets mentioned with like different characters and stuff throughout, but it's like this is probably like the most extreme version of like having a parent or a family member that's like kind of like quote unquote on deployment or something, because it's something that like over the years when I've kind of like been like looking for different jobs and stuff, as I've gotten older and my family has gotten bigger and involved in more stuff, whatever, there were some awesome jobs that I ended up passing on or not even going for because of certain travel requirements and different things like that, where I was like, you know, I don't know if I could really commit to that, you get what I'm saying? And so the fact of this isn't just like a military thing where it's like, oh, my dad is in a different state. He's in a different country on the other side of the planet. How wild is it to be like, my dad isn't even on the planet anymore. My dad is away on the moon or on the International Space Station. That is insane to think about when you say that. It's like, it's crazy enough when it's like, oh yeah, my mom's in Mississippi. Okay, that's a couple states away, 8-hour drive away. But to be like, oh, my mom's on the moon. what can you do with that? But yeah, so once again, shout out to the parents in this series, because man, I know that was tough to kind of like chase your dreams and stuff. In those situations like that, and look at that, Kenji and the brand new baby. It was just so beautiful to see that stuff. But I'm trying to think what else, what other kind of like big moments I want to highlight. Dr. Sharon and also Sarika. Now Sarika, her backstory of the reason why she's wanting to become an astronaut is that, well, first of all, she's already gone through the path of becoming a doctor. But growing up, her father got this very rare disease that I can't remember what it was called, but basically ended up getting like a very terminal illness, basically, and he ended up dying when she was young. Well, she went through the work to try to become a doctor and stuff, but in order to do the proper testing and research for what this disease is, it requires her to have access to the special zero gravity lab on the International Space Station. And so that is kind of like where her goal is going to. And then on the flip side, we have this other lady that we met named Dr. Sharon. Now, Dr. Sharon, she is a what was it? What is it? Astrology. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's called like astrology. Was what she was doing, basically studying stars and stuff. And she is someone who Namba and Hibito have a lot of history with. They spent a lot of their life, a lot of their childhood growing up, going to her house because she had like a big house, kind of like off the grid, so to speak, with a giant telescope on it. They would go to look at the stars. She helped teach them how to play music and instruments and stuff. And so she's somebody that I enjoy seeing throughout the series. Well, she kind of starts having accidents to where she's dropping her phone, her grip is not as strong, different things like that or whatever. And so Hibito first starts noticing it, but it wasn't until they're having this dinner and Sarika meets Dr. Sharon, and she sees her beat up phone because she keeps on dropping it, and she does like a test on her arm, to where she is testing something, and basically she was taught how to do it with her dad, and then that's when she discovers this disease is now in Dr. Sharon. But that ended up, helping them to kind of like catch it, because she kept on going to the doctor, but they were telling her like, hey, there's something wrong with you, or we can detect it, but because of how rare it is, it's not a disease that they would normally test for, or whatever. So it was kind of interesting to kind of like see those different plot points cross and interweave throughout. Um, Something I kind of want to circle back to as well is going back um to Vincent's backstory. Him and Pico and their best friend. So they all grew up in this like very small town where basically everybody in town was expected, like, hey, when you grow up, if you're a man, you're gonna go work in the local mine like your father and your grandfather and everybody else before you have. And so Vincent, Pico, and their other friend, they love space. They were constantly out trying to make little rocket ships, trying to test them and fly them and stuff, whatever. But basically, their dads all started like kind of like trying to force and push them to like, no, you're gonna go work in the mines. You're gonna go to the local college, and yada yada yada. And it sucked because like even like one of like the counselors or teachers or whatever at the school is like told Vincent or Pico, one of them, being like, hey, you think you're someone special? Nobody in the history of this town has ever gone to a big college, and they have never done anything super noteworthy like trying to be an astronaut or work for NASA or whatever. Like, you think you would be the one. And so that sucked to hear, and that kind of hit close to home for me, because I'm someone from a very small town named Jasper, Texas. Very small country town to where there isn't much out there. Um, a lot of people that I know, at least like growing up myself, some stuff has changed, but really growing up, it was okay. Yeah, you're gonna go work in the local uh, factories or whatever, or you'll work in welding or some type of like other kind of like hard labor job um, in one of these surrounding towns or whatever. And a lot of people just kind of just like get stuck there, and just like how Vincent them is like, a lot of people just kind of get stuck with that like small town mentality, and they don't even give the next generation, they don't even want to give the next generation a chance to try to dream of something bigger, because it's like, hey, I never did anything bigger than this town. My father, my mom, my grandfather, nobody I know has ever done it. So, kid, don't even try it. Hey, just go to the local community college or whatever, and that's that. But pretty much it was the situation of their friend passing. That's kind of what reignited that in them of like, no, we can't let this dream die with our friend like this. Is like, no, we're still going to grow up and do bigger and better things than this town. So that was just like a very important and key moment that I really enjoyed in the series. I'm trying to think, is there any other kind of like highlight moments? Uh so I'm like just like scrolling through my thread. Oh, of course. The moment when Muta officially becomes an astronaut. How could I forget this moment? And this heartwarming, cheesy smile he has on his face. But 70 episodes later, he finally gets the title of astronaut and gets his picture hung up on the wall next to his brother. And I love the callback to early on when he kind of first came here or whatever, and he saw his brother's picture on the wall. And like I said, just kind of just like went to that constant mindset of the brothers of like, just wait for me, bro. I'm on my way. So just seeing his brother's picture on the wall, and basically being like, someday my picture is gonna be right next to him, and it was. I think it was maybe a couple of years had passed between where the series had started and then this moment because of all the training and different stuff along the way or whatever. So this was just like such a dope moment to see. Now, other moment after that was and I kind of talked about a lot of stuff out of order because this was before the jet training or whatever. But there was a moment where Muta basically got put on this ragtag team where they were needed to they were needed to figure out something with the vehicles that they drive on the moon because of the accident or whatever. They're trying to figure out, okay, what can we change or alter on the vehicle to try to help make things safer or whatever. And so because of Muta's background designing cars and also him actually going and talking to what is his name? Was it Daniel? Sorry, I'm forgetting stuff, but the astronaut that had the accident with Hibito, Damien. So that moment of him actually going and talking to the people that were there in the situation, like, okay, what exactly happened? What did y'all experience? And that helped Muta come up with the plan and the solution of some upgrades to make to the buggy to kind of help with things in the future. And so, yeah, but all in all, this show is just freaking fantastic. I loved this shot because there was a arc where they were kind of split up into teams of 4 when they were kind of doing like their underwater training, and it was basically like 2 newbies and 2 veterans that they were kind of like going through trying to figure, okay, who's going to do what or whatever. And it was at first it was happy because Muta and Kenji, 2 bros working together, but then it was revealed later on that like, no, y'all are actually competing. Only one of y'all will get to go to the moon, basically, or whatever. But I love how things kind of worked out with that situation, and then later on they still ended up coming back together. But I love how once again Muta's engineering mind came into play and to kind of help them with their project that they had in that situation and stuff. It was just so dope. And then Muta getting chosen for the to be on the backup squad for this astronaut mission was so freaking dope. But of course it was like this kind of like ragtag group of people, misfits so to speak, that nobody wanted to work with, including which I can't remember her name, but it was a lady who was a mom. I want to say her name was Becky, I want to say. But I loved her story because Muta kept noticing she had like a tattoo. It was like a heart around what looked like it could be like a sea or a moon, but kind of find out her husband was one of the astronauts that died on the accident with Brian, and she was working in the control center and they had a son together. Well, of course, when her husband died, she left NASA altogether and just focused on her son or whatever, but she wanted to continue that dream of going to the moon and stuff for their son and in honor of her husband, and their child gave her his blessing like, mommy, I want you to do this. And so her, and like I said, I loved how Brian's older brother was the one that was chosen to kind of like be the head person to lead this crew. And I love how, of course, he had his doubts because he's like, man, I'm out the game. I'm old. I can't really do all this training and stuff, whatever. I'm done. But they hit him up with some pictures of the director gave him some pictures that Hibito them took on the moon of the figure because they promised us kids of like, hey, when we go to the moon, we're going to leave our figures there on the moon. And the fact that his brother actually did that was kind of like that extra little push that pushed him like, okay, you know what? I got one more in me. I'll do it. So, but yeah, it was just so many awesome moments that happened throughout this show. I didn't even talk about Hibito going to Russia for an arc because of his kind of like PTSD from the accident or whatever, to where he couldn't even get in the suit and do any training or whatever. And so, but I love how eventually he overcame that through the help of this young lady and her family that he met when he went to Russia for a while. And I love how no matter what, no matter the odds, he continued to push forward, because nobody else, or not nobody else, but it was one specific dude. I can't remember what this guy's name, but I hated this guy's guts so freaking much. Gates. This dude. He kept on trying to sabotage Hibito's testing stuff, and basically just like putting roadblock after roadblock in the way to keep him from going back into space. And so I love how at the end of the show, Hibito ends up leaving NASA or whatever. But, and this was like very interesting to kind of like really think about it, where it was like, hey, NASA isn't the only way I can get to the moon. And so at first, part of me was like, okay, he's probably going to go to Russia, but something else that I also love that came back there was an old guy back in like the very first arc of the show. Let me see if I can find his name. Where is the old man? Fukuda. Old man Fukuda. He didn't pass the initial test or whatever, but he ended up going to work for a company that was basically going to design spaceships and stuff. So I love how a little bit later on in the series, when Muta had got a phone call, and I'm trying to remember who gave him the phone. I can't remember who it was, but basically, Fukuda basically being like, yo, keep pushing, you keep moving forward, Muta, because I'm also moving forward, because we're going to need somebody to basically to be the person to ride our ship into space, essentially, whatever. And so I just, like I said, once again, just love how all these pieces are just constantly building on top of each other. So it's like, okay, you know what? Just because I got a no here, you know what's the old saying? When one door closes, another one opens. To where it's like, you know what? That door closed, but there's other ways that I can contribute to this. And so, like I said, from the other old man early on that started building the spacesuits to include more people of different heights and body sizes and stuff, to now Fukuda is working with the company to build Japan's first space shuttle or whatever, so they can start launching stuff from Japan. And Hibito leaving NASA to go elsewhere, whatever. So I love how there's these other pieces moving in the background, and people are basically telling like, Muta, just because Hibito is gone from here, he's not out the game. So I love how at the end, Hibito basically, because he goes ghost for like weeks, I believe, before Hibito hears from him, or before Muta hears from him. But he basically says like, hey, I may have left NASA, but I have not given up on becoming an astronaut. I'm gonna get to space. I might not have the title of astronaut, but because like Russia and other places call an astronaut something else, whatever. But he's like, I'm gonna go to space. I might not be called an astronaut, but I'm gonna still go to space. You keep going, Muta. I'll see you on the moon. And once again, it's just like, yo, my heart, y'all. But I've been going for almost an hour. I gotta wrap this up, but it is just so much greatness to talk about with the show. And one last piece that I have to talk about really quickly. One of the other key components of the show that I wish I would have mentioned at the very beginning, but that is the music of this show. Man, because there are certain tracks and stuff that they might play over and over and over, but they still hit your heart every time. And I love how certain moments, whatever, it's like triumphant moments or whatever. I'm gonna play a little snippet of this theme. Hopefully it comes through. It was just so freaking good every time I heard this song. This music come on. Every time that played. Every time. I just welled up with excitement and stuff. So but yeah, so Space Brothers, hell of a journey, and I am definitely going to be jumping over to the manga relatively soon, because I know the manga is getting close to the ending soon. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be done by the end of this year at the latest, but I'm excited just knowing that there is so much more for me to read, because where the spot that the anime ends off on is only roughly like halfway of the point of where the show of where the manga is currently. So basically just knowing like, hey, I essentially have like the amount of material I just watched doubled again to watch, to read. I'm all for it, and I would love to follow this series to its conclusion, hopefully, because I don't know. I'm about to see where I can read the manga at. I might have to buy them digitally because it's licensed through a Kodansha, and of course they don't sell them physically, which that would be a lot to buy 42 physical volumes. So maybe I'll just get them digitally or whatever, or find a place to read them. I don't know, but yeah. But all in all, though, Space Brothers was one hell of a ride, one hell of a watch, and yeah. So shout out to anybody that is still here listening or watching this. I appreciate you for indulging me as I gushed about this fantastic series, but this one is definitely one that will stick in my heart and my mind for a long time to come. Not sure where I might place it in my all-time list, because I want to kind of give it time to kind of like marinate and stuff, which is kind of why I waited a little bit before I recorded this, just because I didn't want to like immediately jump into recording it, but I wanted to at least give my mind some time to like process some stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff along the way that I didn't touch on and stuff, but that is fine, because either way, if you're listening to all this, more than likely you probably already watched it, or hey, if you just listen to it for entertainment purposes or whatever, then hey, there's still so much that I didn't get into the nitty gritty of on details, that you should just go watch or read the series and experience it yourself. But yeah, Space Brothers, sci-fi slice of life, hell of a show. And so with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank y'all so much for watching and or listening. As always, you can find me everywhere at Dad Needs to Talk, and you can get most of my stuff either in audio form on any podcast streaming service or video form on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed and follow me and all that fun jazz. And let me know your thoughts on Space Brothers. I hope that, if nothing else, I hope that this might encourage someone else to check out this series, because it is a fantastic series. It is definitely one of those series, along with one that I watched for the first time last year, Kaiji. Gambling Apocalypse that I see brought up a lot of times when people are like, hey, what is a series that you feel is underrated or underappreciated? And so this one is always high on that list. And so I'm glad I was finally able to dive into it and experience it myself. But with that being said, I'm done as I just crossed the 1 hour mark. 1 hour for a 99 episode series. Hey, very, very fitting. So I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be easy. Thank y'all so much for all the love and support. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.